Hello,
Hi.
how you doing today?
Good. I thought I'd get on early and make sure my mic is working today.
Okay, it sounds good. Sounds good. We're so glad to be able to have a report of no more masks. The governor spoke today, so guess we'll hear from the mayor. So how is everything going with you, Ashley?
Good.
Good.
Everything kind of chilled out for the summertime.
Okay, and so you're going to be doing the minutes for us today. Lindsay is not. She may be on, but she won't be able to do anything. Okay. So you want someone else to do the roll call? Are you able to do both?
Yeah, I can do both for that.
I can't hear you.
I can do both.
Okay. All right. If you need help, we will definitely try to make that happen. Okay. Byron, it was good to have you on. Chief, it's good to have you with us.
Thank you, Andrea. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can hear you very well.
Okay, wonderful. I was worried about that.
Yes, and I was set up to talk for you, but I'm glad you're here and I don't have to talk for you.
Okay, perfect.
Sorry I missed you on Saturday. I turned around and looked and saw you talking to somebody and turned around again and you were gone. So,
Yeah, it was a busy day. Lots of good conversation that day. I think I left it's about 5:30 or so. No rain though. We lucked out.
and I'm very happy that the rain took place earlier that morning and we did not have any rain. So I know President Hennigan was very happy about it. It turned out a really nice group of people came out. They had a nice showing. So I'm real happy about that too. And thank you so much for putting things together for us for tonight even.
Oh yeah, no, of course. I'm excited at the possibility.
Yes. Well, you heard what the governor did this morning, right?
I don't think I did.
Okay, well, as soon as the mayor comes on, we're hoping she will give us an update.
Okay.
Okay. So we're waiting for a few more and it's almost 6 o'clock and we will start on time. If you have any questions, I'm free to answer as many as I can before the meeting.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing full day work here.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, we're glad to have you with us tonight.
thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Mary, glad to have you.
Hello.
Oh,
Hello.
Dylan, you made it. Where are you working?
I work at Meyer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you have been working then, haven't you?
Oh yeah, a lot.
Lots of
bet.
lots of transitioning happening, updating, and
Oh yeah, I'm down in the gas station right now where they're doing all the remodeling.
oh,
wow.
okay.
So all I basically have to do is just sit here.
It's
Yeah.
good.
We're really happy that you're able to join us tonight.
Yeah.
Of course.
And congratulations on graduation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You've had an exciting time. Lots of graduations that I've been a part of this past month and a half.
Yeah.
It's a great, great celebration. So happy that some people were able to have their graduations outside, and some were wishing that the weather had gotten better sooner.
Uh,
Mayor, did you get an update from the governor's office for us tonight?
Well, we are already had found out a few weeks ago that we are back full capacity for everything July 1st. And the
okay.
emergency order is going to be no longer in effect. So we will be in person. We tested it out last night at our city commission meeting. It worked pretty well. We found a few things. That's why we were kind of testing it last night with no audience, with no public there. We kept them on so we could kind of test it. So we will need to be in person because we're no longer under that order anymore next month. So yes, we will need to be in person, and people can still zoom in and we'll be able to see them from where we're sitting, and you can converse with them. We had no issue with that last night. We had one time we couldn't hear somebody very well, but then it cleared up. And Ashley, I know you were on the call because you had contacted me. Could you hear us okay?
Yeah, we can hear you guys perfectly fine. through
Okay, because
Zoom.
we couldn't really tell how you could hear us, because to us, we were worried we sounded quiet. So, okay.
It's just as
So.
clear as like this kind of call.
Okay, awesome.
It was clear, but you were at a distance. You couldn't see the faces that good, at least mine. It was like that.
Yeah, and I think it will remain that way, but now the public will be able to attend as well. So,
But
Yeah,
people
I
will
heard you
be able-
fine, though. I don't remember seeing the actual timer during public comment.
we're fixing that because I asked that question. I said, okay, I could see it, but could they see it? Because it was on two different screens, because there's screens in there. And they said, that's one of the bugs that we just found last night, and we're getting fixed before the next meeting. So they found a way to do it, but they didn't discover it till after. But yes, that's one of them they're going to fix.
Yeah, I thought that was one of the issues because to me it just looked like a big white screen.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're getting close to time. Well, we're over time, I see. Okay. Well, I'm going to call the meeting to order. And this is the HRC pre-meeting for Zoom, June 22nd. And we're just excited to have everybody with us. And we'd like to have the roll call. Ashley?
Mayor Sarkis.
Can't hear you.
Present.
Bernard,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramos,
Present.
Commissioner Patton, absent, Commissioner Frank is present, Commissioner Boone, absent, Commissioner Barron,
Present.
Commissioner Carter,
Present.
Commissioner Harbat.
Present.
All right. We're so glad to have all of you with us again. The mayor was just discussing with us about being in our meetings in person. Did everyone hear her, or do we need to have her repeat that?
Oh, we're good.
Okay, all right. Well, the next order of business, we're going to turn the meeting over to Chief of Police. He's with us today. Well, I'm sorry. The minutes will be reviewed and voted on at the regular meeting. I hope all of you got your minutes and reviewed them so that we can vote on them at the next meeting, okay? All right, and our old business is talking about planning of the bridge and the divide. We had chosen June 24th for our bridging the divide, but some things caused us to make some changes. And so we're going to vote on that in the regular meeting, but we're going to discuss it now. So Chief, if you would start and give us an update of what you would like us to participate in, since now that the governor actually today, she actually had a press conference and she opened it up starting today, that everybody does not have to wear masks or anything. She was out on Belle Isle, and so I was able to see the report. So we're really excited about that. I know everybody has not been vaccinated, and not everybody is going to open up their doors and say you don't have to wear a mask, but we'll just have to work accordingly. But as far as the government is concerned, the city is concerned, and the county, as far as I know, that we'll be back in person. Right, Mayor?
Correct.
All right. Okay. So let's welcome Chief of Police, Chief Emmerich. We just are so happy to have him with us again today to share some very exciting news. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Lady Bernard. Good evening, commissioners, mayor. I appreciate everyone's understanding and flexibility with the dynamic situation with the governor changing the rules on us. We have an opportunity to kind of have the event that we wanted to have all along, where we can be face to face with the public and have some real conversation. It happened that we came upon a donor at the same time, someone who's willing to purchase hot dogs, drinks, whatever we decide to host this event. Ideally, I would like us to kind of cook out in an area on First Friday and hopefully interact with the public and have a number of people pass through. I know the June event was huge. I know we had more than 2,000 people come to that one, and I'm hoping July is the same, which I think would give us an opportunity to reach a lot more people than if we tried to do the standard Zoom call. So that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping the HRC will join us or partner, however you want to proceed. And I have some volunteers who are willing to cook the hot dogs and hand them out, and others who are willing to be present just to be there and be open for conversation. So that's kind of my half-baked plan at the moment, but we have the space reserved and we have the funding, so it's entirely possible.
Okay, tell us the location of where you want it to be and what so far we have.
Okay. So the next First Friday is July 2nd. And in talking to Michelle, there's a half of a block of space ahead of the stage on North Main. Correct me if I'm wrong, Michelle, but there's a good amount of space there that we could move some picnic tables into the street and have an area set up to distribute food, and then for people to sit down and talk and just be together and hang out. The only thing with that is that being in front of the stage, there's a band that comes on at 7. And obviously we wouldn't be able to hear each other after 7 o'clock. So I was wondering if we wanted to do it maybe 4 to 7 or 5 to 7. I think we could have a lot of interaction in that time, if that works for everyone.
Where that is located, just so everyone knows, so that stage is going to be basically right in front of Sauce or Dan Malloy, just so you kind of know what he's talking
Okay.
about. So it's where we would be is like in front of like Passion for Fashion, Running with Ease, the tailor shop. I'm trying to give you a general idea of where that is located, what he's talking
Okay.
about. And yeah, I will say from going to the last First Friday that I go to all of them. I've never seen it already so full, and I got there at 4:30. It was crazy. I don't know, being that it's 4th of July weekend, but a lot of people don't go away. I don't. I never do. And so, I do think that there still will be a lot of people. I don't think it's a bad idea, Chief, to do the 4 to 7. I don't know how everybody else feels, but that gives more time to interact. And then maybe some more quality time, especially if people come down on that earlier side, because it's just not as crazy downtown. In that 4 to 5 time, it was a lot calmer. And I noticed the last time where it really picked up was about 5:30. So, I think it would be nice to be there for a longer period of time and be on that front end, especially because I just feel like you can have better interactions. It's just not as crowded and loud and everything at that time. Just my observation from last time.
And let me just ask a question, Chief. Is this just like a mix and mingle informal with the officers? There's no formal presentation or anything like that?
No, we wanted it to, just be a safe space for anyone to ask the questions that were on their minds. We didn't want to have a formal program, so to speak.
Okay.
More of an impromptu conversation.
Okay. Thank you.
And we can always do something like that later in the year or next year. We can, do something more formal if you would like us to do that, But I think this is a good idea. And I thank you for coming up with this idea, because it's like people are ready to get out. And if they're coming out, this is a time for interacting. So how many officers are you going to have available?
Well, at the moment, I have 3. I don't know how many we would like to have present. I can have more, I can have less, whatever we want to have there.
Well, I will leave that judgment up to you, because I think you would know the community and officers. And if we do it for 3 hours, we definitely have an opportunity to have them come in and out. So you can
Yeah.
have different officers for each hour, or half an hour or something, to mingle. And you don't need to have too many at one time, because people get nervous with too many all together. So I just think it's a great idea. And I do believe that you should probably open it up and say something in the beginning and then tell people what we're doing. Is that possible for you to do?
Oh yes, of course. No, that's a good idea, and I do like the idea of rotation. So if we have some set volunteers, and then maybe because that'll be on our afternoon shift, if they rotate in, maybe grab a bite to eat, and then they go back out on the road, it'll be a nice break for them as well. I think that's a great idea.
And it's good to see more participating, in the opportunity. So anyone else have something they'd like to share, Mayor?
I just wondered, I don't know, Michelle, I know you're on this call as well because you're running this, but she's doing this from a hotspot because she's having issues with her internet. I did not know if there was a way, can we advertise this on the first Friday? Like we said before, like we're like, oh, there's going to be a vendor market, there's going to be this cornhole tournament, there's going to be bands. Like we put out exactly what's going on. I'd really like to have this advertised on there as well, if Chief Emmerich's okay with that and you're okay with that.
It's already on there.
Perfect.
So I put just a short blurb that said something like cookout and conversation with the Adrian Police Department and the HRC, and it's just a little vague post right now along in the list of activities. I wanted to wait until after this meeting to add specifics, but yeah, that's absolutely no problem. I did want to mention, Chief, and I think I had mentioned this to you before, but just as a reminder and a heads up, that if you start earlier at 4 o'clock, I only have me and Brett for the July event. and we'll be parking cars at 4. So we won't be able to help with anything on that end. So just as a FYI, it'll be a little hectic from about 4 to 5 o'clock.
Okay, no problem. We'll plan for that, and maybe we'll even have some extra to help with whatever you got going on.
That would be awesome.
Okay.
And Chief Emmerich, are
Mm-hmm.
you seeing this, Chief Emmerich? I just have a question. Are you seeing this as a starting board for like to get a real pulse of the community of like what they're wanting to know or what they're asking, like to possible have further discussion later on, just to have that initial interaction, that face-to-face interaction, and possibly if you discover that you're hearing the same thing over and over again, maybe looking at that to do further in a meeting. I'm not sure what your thought was on it. I'm just kind of curious.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, this is kind of a new approach. We've had formal panels, back before COVID. We've had Q&A. We've done a couple Zooms. This is an approach we haven't taken. So I'm certainly open to building on anything that comes of it. I think Juneteenth was a great interaction. I think that got us out there in the community, and Lady Bernard is right. People are ready to be out. They're ready to enjoy the sunshine. And I just want to capitalize on the crowd and have as many conversations as we can.
Let me just say too, for the Adrian Dominican Sisters, we're going to open up for the sisters off campus throughout the US July 1st. So I will make sure that our sisters know. And then for the sisters that are here on the campus, we're going to be free after July 12th because we're a medical facility. But I'm going to ask permission if I can go, even though I live here. And maybe a couple other sisters that live with me. But definitely our sisters, and we have, I think it's almost 20 some outside in Lenawee County that could, pretty much be there.
Some
Yay,
of them
Sister
were.
Pat is going to be free. Yay, Sister
Yeah,
Pat.
right. And there's food, where there's
Yes.
food, the nuns go.
Yes. So Chief, we need some chips to go along with them hot dogs and something to drink. So
Okay.
that sounds like a wonderful ploy to get people to fellowship and talk and communicate, and also bring up questions. They might
Yeah.
overhear conversations, and some have already having conversations, and maybe they would be willing to come and share with you and the officers what exactly is on their minds. But I think it's a great idea, and I think it's going to be better than our Zoom meeting. But I just really appreciate you thinking ahead, thinking out of the box too.
And Chief, how do you envision us as HRC? Like, what would you like to see as us helping you? In what regards exactly are you envisioning this?
Well, that's that's entirely up to you. I didn't want to speak for anyone, but certainly willing to incorporate as much or as little as you want. Could certainly use help either serving the food or mingling, or if not, whatever you see is appropriate.
Okay.
I think a little of both of that, mingling with you as well. And some of us volunteering, or we can take turns volunteering and doing both areas, walking around, communicating. I'm hoping to be able to pass out some of the brochures and talk to people. This is an opportunity for all of us to communicate and let them know that we're fighting for whatever is necessary to make our community a great place to be.
Yeah.
So this is an opportunity for all of us. And it would be nice to have us to meet the officers and talk with them as well. The HRC, take the time to communicate with them. So I just appreciate having that outdoors and being able to walk around and talk to people and share and let them ask all the questions they want to. We just need to have some brochures to hand out so we can, make it a pleasantry. And also, Chief, whatever you want us to do, we can help park cars or do anything. We got 3 hours. And do you still want us to start at 4, or you want to communicate from 4 to 4:30, and what? How do you want to start it?
I'm happy to do either. I really, anyone with expertise as far as setting up food and having it cooked and ready to go, I could certainly use that. This will be a first for me. I'm thinking that we'll also have a table set up. You know, we've got a table skirt and a nice picture collage that we set out with some brochures and do some recruiting at the same time. So maybe if we have a joint display or something nearby, maybe that would work also. But yeah, I'm kind of writing as I go, so I'm open to all input at this point.
Hey, Chief.
Okay, we can definitely make that happen. Someone else?
This is Michelle. I just want to ask Chief Emmerich, I had mentioned to you the Adrian Market District wants to donate their vendor fees to this. Do
Okay.
you want that like as a reimbursement, or do you want, I mean, obviously they won't have it until that night, but I didn't know if you wanted that to go to something specific, or if, you know, if you don't want to use it as a reimbursement or you don't need it for that, I'm sure they wouldn't mind if you passed it along to, you know, an appropriate use or charity or organization, whatever you want to do with it. But I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that if you need it.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate that, and I think we have adequate funding for our program. So maybe if there's something the HRC would like to see it go to, that would be great.
Okay.
This would be a great time to have some T-shirts to hand out to children, or something to hand out to kids, balloons or
Yeah,
some, you know, maybe not balloons because little bitty ones will grab
Yeah.
onto it, but maybe we can get something to hand out to children and just have a basket of things to share. And something with the slogan of the police on it, you know, your friend in the community. I don't know what your slogan is for the community, Chief.
Well, we as far as giveaways, we've got I had some temporary tattoos that I was giving out at Juneteenth, but children were covering themselves with them. I don't know if the parents really appreciated that or not.
Not all.
We do
Not
have
all.
we've got a whole bunch of supplies from Safety Pup, workbooks, coloring pages. We've got
Yeah.
some home ID kits. We've got some good stuff that we can put out.
And
Yeah.
that would be good for the officers to, you know,
Yeah.
sort of, and we can help hand out things that
Right.
you are putting together. That would be great. That would be great. So
And I will, if everybody's okay with it, I will put together on my own some name tags for us, just so we are identified as the
That
Human
would be good.
Relations Commission and who we are, so that people know why we're there or who they can talk to if they would like to talk to someone, just to identify us. Are we all okay with that?
Oh,
yes,
that's great.
absolutely. You know,
Okay.
one thing the library was doing, they were passing out buttons and they were making them right there on site. And they
Wow.
do that. So I was wondering, even the health department, both of them were giving out buttons. It could be one that goes on your refrigerator or one that you fasten onto your clothes. So maybe we can do something like that with police officers or the HRC, either one. I don't know. What do you think, Mayor? I think we got some money, and if we got somebody going to donate something, we can
Yeah,
donate
yeah,
for
I
that.
don't know. I'll have to look into that. I don't know. I know that I know the library is open during First Fridays and they're actively participating this year, so I'm not sure what they're doing. You know, and I could try to reach out. I know a couple people there really well and see if we could borrow it. If that is the case, you know, if they're not using it, I'll reach out and ask them.
Okay, because they had the machine and so did the health department, both of them. And I was trying to recruit them for something else I was doing. So it's nice to do. Okay, so it sounds good. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us, Chief?
No, that about covers it. Thank you very much for the flexibility and the time and the effort on this. I really appreciate it.
Okay, so if we're gonna help with the cooking, what time do you need us there or set up?
I guess I'm not sure at this point. I'm planning on being there pretty early myself. I don't know if it's better to try to grill stuff ahead of time and keep it warm in a crock pot, or to just try to keep up with people as they come through. I don't know. That's where I have no experience in that sort of thing.
Well, you actually have 3 hours, so you don't want them having cooked and warmed for 3 hours. So what we will
Okay.
do is I will give you a call and we'll try to work something out. Do we have any
Okay.
volunteers that want to work with the food setup? Let
I'm
me
sure
know.
my wife will want to be there, and probably Eric Adams. He's pretty good with the grill.
Okay, okay.
But yeah, we've got people, so definitely look forward to a call then on it.
All right, then we certainly will make it happen. Okay. Anybody else have anything for the chief before we go to our next part of our meeting?
Just want to say thank you very much. Love that you are thinking outside the box and with this great idea. And this is what makes our community so great. So thank you very much.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, chief.
All right,
All
thank you.
right.
Thank you.
All right, our next discussion is going to be with our housing help, Elizabeth Solino. Are you with us?
I am.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate so much. We've been talking around and about homelessness and what help can be given to people that are having difficulties in the homing area. So we're going to open up the floor, and I would like you to describe, give us a little bit of information about yourself and then your staff, what you all do, and then you can do the presentation however you want to. And we have 25 minutes.
All right. Well, thank you all for having me here. I'm the executive director. We have Shannon DeSlover is on here as well. She's the program manager for Housing Help. I believe we have about 10 staff now that covers basically our shelter programs, transitional housing, housing first, permanent housing, and then of course our accounting departments as well. So we've been in existence for over 30 years. So we started back in 1990 and then became LEAC in 1991. So Lenawee Emergency and Affordable Housing Corporation. But people had problems remembering LEAC. So we changed our name to Housing Help of Lenawee, hoping that would also help the community understand what it is that we do.
Right.
So, and we changed that back in 2013.
Oh, okay. Because, you know, LEAC, we, long time ago, like the late 90s, we gave over those houses across from us to LEAC for the women.
Yes, you gave us the property and we built those 2 duplexes. You are correct.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. So that's who y'all are. Okay.
That is us.
Okay, your position is?
I'm the executive director.
Wonderful.
And I've been with the organization, I originally started at the front desk in 2006. So been there for a little while. So to tell you, I guess, about, so each of our programs, so with our emergency shelter program, we actually operate the only 2 family shelters in Lenawee County. So our emergency shelters can be for any makeup of household as long as they have minor children in the home. So it can be a single dad, it could be grandma raising her grandchildren, a 2-parent family, as long as there are minor children. We're a little bit different in the respect that we actually have one family at a time in our shelter. So we have 2 separate units. One we own, another a landlord allows us to rent to use for shelter. That program, people can actually stay for up to 90 days. And then during that time, they work with their case manager on a daily basis to make sure that they're doing okay, and we're getting them connected to all of the resources and services that they might need within the community. We have them do life skills training on a monthly basis. So it might be something like, for instance, maybe they might go to a budgeting class through Community Action Agency or work one-on-one with their case manager on some different skill sets. With the main goal of obviously reaching permanent housing by the time they exit the program. Also part of our emergency shelter program is short-term motel vouchers. So for those, normally, most of the time we have a max of about $20,000 or so per fiscal year. Since with COVID, honestly, since October of 2019 through basically the beginning of this month, we spent about $180,000 on motel assistance. So there's been a huge increase in need for motel throughout the pandemic. But those, most of the time pre-pandemic, the max we could provide was up to 7 nights in the motel. During the pandemic, with some of the additional funding, we were able to provide potentially up to 30 nights of motel if needed. And again, the hope is that while they're in there, that either that in some way, shape, or form, they'd have some place to go when they would exit. It's not always necessarily permanent housing, but it could potentially even just be maybe a friend might end up finding a space for them to stay with them for a little bit, for example. For our transitional housing program, that is another program for families with minor children in the home. And that is what, you know, Sister Pat was saying about the property near the sisters. Those 2 duplexes, those are 4 units. They can each house up to a family of 4. And again, having minor children in the home there, they can, their rent is based on their income. So they actually pay rent to housing help, and then they have utilities in their name. So it's kind of a step up slightly from emergency shelter. These families may already have, they already will have an income, and they may not need necessarily quite as much support as somebody in the emergency shelter program. They will then, again, life skills training once a month, but instead of meeting daily with a case manager, they meet weekly with a case manager. And they could potentially stay in that program for up to 2 years. We have had some of our families that are in our transitional housing program even transition into habitat homes. So they can use it as a stepping stone for something even other than renting. And then for our Housing First program is our largest program. That program can assist with rent or mortgage assistance. That one, normally, so last year, we actually paid out 217 rent or mortgage bills and spent over $113,000. So to kind of put in perspective with kind of a change from like October of 2019 through September 30th of last year, just within the last 6 months, we've spent over $800,000 on assistance. So it's been a huge change with the pandemic on the amount of funding that we have available to assist in the community and the amount of, to a degree, caseload with that. Last year, we had a grand total of 1,752 individuals in housing crisis apply for assistance at Housing Help. So that's people who applied for anything. That doesn't necessarily mean we were able to pay for every single individual that came through our doors. And that was amounted to 1,752 individuals, and that actually accounted for 802 households.
Wow.
Thank you.
Yep. And so for instance, with Housing First, that those bills we paid actually helped house 138 adults with 113 children. So with Housing First, the biggest chunk of funding that we get does come from government funding. So from like MISTA and HUD. We do also apply for local funding. So for instance, like Lenawee Cares grants through the Community Foundation, like United Way. So always looking for non-governmental funds, just because with the government, there's always a lot more restrictions. So you have to meet certain income limits. So like for instance, most of our state funding prior to the pandemic, you had to be under 30% of the area median income, so the annual median income for your area. And you could even have somebody, a family of 4, who could easily be over that income limit, but they're still struggling because they can't afford their rent and their utilities because, you know, if you're working even 2 part-time jobs, you're still over income for some of these funds. With the pandemic, some of the funding, they've given us up to the 50%. So they've given us a little bit more flexibility. With our current funds that we have available, the COVID emergency rental assistance program, they're actually allowing us to go up to 80% AMI. So with some of these COVID dollars, they've gotten a lot more flexible, trying to allow us to assist more people. That being said, once things go back to normal, I'm sure things will get cut way back down again. So the problem that we run into in our community with our Housing First program, it's always been a struggle, but it's even more so since the pandemic hit. We don't have enough housing available within the community for rental properties. So that being said, it's always difficult for us to find a place to put people. So we can be working with them and people can be busting their butt and doing everything that they possibly can to find a place. But that doesn't mean that they're going to find a unit that's available that they can get into. So, and then on top of that, when you've got a huge list of people, then do they want to work with an agency necessarily? If I've got somebody over here who's not going through an agency, then there's always that potential as well. Like they don't have to wait for a yes from Housing Help or Department of Health and Human Services. So maybe I'll rent to them versus somebody who has to wait for the assistance. With this pandemic though, the upside of nobody being evicted is, you know, that those people who couldn't be evicted are housed. The downside is there's not that turnover, which means that people who didn't have housing are struggling even more to find housing. And hence part of the reason when there's been limited shelter space, and then in addition, families kind of being at their breaking point because, you know, when you're on lockdown and stuck in, I mean, families who normally even get along kind of reach your breaking point when you kind of go a little stir crazy, for lack of a better way of putting it. You know, we all feel cooped up when the government kind of, everything was on more of a lockdown early on. So some people found it obviously even more difficult to find even family or friends to potentially stay with because of that. So that's kind of where we're at right now. We have some landlords who are, we call them weekly. They work with us really well when there's open units. But realistically, like somebody could, for instance, if somebody posted in some, like there's the housing in Lenawee on Facebook, that Facebook group, people can post units available on there. They could post it and within a couple of hours, they can have 200 applicants. I mean, it's that insane with how difficult it is. So that's where we're at right now. I have a lot of money to house people who are on the streets and shelters, that are, you know, literally homeless. I have a lot of money for people who are considered prevention too. So maybe they're staying from couch to couch, or maybe they're just behind in their rent. But the people who are behind in the rent, it's easy enough to spend that money because they're already there. We don't have to find them a place. But for everyone who's looking, I have all this money and I'm trying to spend it to get them in their housing, but there's just not a place to put them. So that's a really big issue for us right now as far as our Housing First program. Our mortgage assistance, we don't always have a lot of mortgage assistance, and all of that is always local funding because we do not get any government funding for mortgage assistance. With that though, I do have a grant that's supposed to start July 1 that I did get from some local funds to be able to have some funding available to help people who are behind in mortgages. So that, like I said, we don't always have all the time, but we're trying to find ways to get some additional funds to help that part of our population as well. The other additional stuff, we also have our Veterans Dire Need Fund, which can be used for all of these same things. So we can use it for housing related costs, but we can also help fill gaps in services for veterans. So for instance, we could help a veteran if they needed to get dentures and they didn't have income for that. We helped an amputee get a transfer seat for the shower. So we've got a lot more flexibility with our veterans funds, and those are all pure donation. Those are no government funds. A large chunk of the funds come from Think of It, that the WLEN holds their annual fundraiser each year, and they donate all of those funds to Housing Help. There's a few other groups as well. There's the, I'm going to get the number wrong, but there's the SAL and Tecumseh partners with Raisin Valley, and we'll do like a golf outing, for instance, and raise funds for that group, for that funding for us as well that we can use for veterans. So, and like last year, we spent over $30,000 for 45 veteran households came in and applied for assistance, and we helped connect them with resources. First, we always use our dire needs as a last resort. And then of those 45, we ended up financially assisting 25 households with over $30,000, excuse me, for various things. And then we also have a small, it's kind of confusing because it's also a dire needs fund, but that can be used for anybody, even if they're not a veteran. So the cap on that is about $200 per household, but we can help, for instance, you might be able to help with a utility bill. We've helped some people maybe pay like a storage fee, for instance. They're in transition and they don't want to lose their house, like their furniture. So when they do get a house, that they still have furniture to move in. So we can help fill in kind of those gaps with that dire need fund as well for anybody who's not a veteran. So, and then we also have our permanent housing program, Lenawee Housing Development Coalition. So their LHDC owns Legacy Housing Apartments in Adrian. And that is the only permanent supportive housing program in Lenawee County. We are the property managers for that program, and we also provide all of the support services. And at that property, it is for chronically homeless individuals. So this means that they are single persons who either have been homeless 4 times in the last 3 years or continuously for 12 months. And they also have a permanent disability. And so when they go in there, they will meet weekly with the case manager with the ultimate goal that essentially that they could live there forever if they wanted to. They do pay rent while they're there. We do have a project-based voucher there, which means that MISHTA actually pays their rent. It's based on their income. So MISHTA pays a portion of their rent and then they pay the rest to LHDC. The utilities are included there. So the only, essentially the only cost they have for housing there is just their portion of rent, which most people who go in there, their portion of rent averages around $200 a month. And that gives them rent and all of their utilities for the entire month. So we, again, the point of the permanent supportive housing program is for a lot of these individuals, they were consistently always going back to the street or remaining on the street just due to really their disabilities. So it added kind of that extra barrier. This is also where during the pandemic, you could clearly see how much the pandemic affected those who may have been struggling with mental health. A lot of the individuals in that program had some type of mental health, and they were doing pretty well prior to the pandemic, but then being cut off from the people that they were able to interact with, they began feeling isolated. They weren't doing well. Then trying to connect with people with telehealth, it was not going well for them. So it was definitely a struggle for a lot of them there, because they didn't have that connection or that feeling of community that they had prior. But that being said, there was one tenant that we had there too, that even prior to the pandemic, because of cuts that's been steadily happening 10 years or more with kind of governmental trickle down with the focus on mental health, you know, people who used to, for instance, be able to easily get into like, for instance, even CMH. So the community mental health, they had maybe a broader spectrum of what funds have allowed them to work with for longer. They've steadily kind of had to, the government's cut things down where they don't allow as much. So that means that they were already cutting them down, saying, no, you're not going to meet with people in person. Your doctors are all going to be through the computer. And that affected them. So it makes it difficult for them to stay, to have their stability and to be as successful in what they're working toward with their goals. So that's been another huge struggle. I know through all of this, the police officers have gotten connected with us when it comes to sheltering, so that they know they can call my cell phone in the middle of the night and I'll try to, for instance, get people housed there. So we've got that relationship between all of our shelters in the community. We all partner together. So we're all pulling together. We did that even before the pandemic. We've got a very giving community that tries to work together. I mean, all of the agencies, as we tell, you know, funders, we all play nice in the sandbox together because we're all trying to achieve the same thing. We want our residents to be happy, healthy, and safe and have housing. So that's ultimately what our goal is.
Well, we'd like to thank you so much for so much information. I wonder, do you want to have your assistant to talk about anything? We have about 10 minutes left.
Shannon, is there anything that you can think of that you'd like to share?
No, I think you covered it pretty well with all the programs and services that we provide to the community.
Does anybody have any questions though, or want to know any more about anything or any additional numbers? I can look at if you'd like.
I think we had a lot of questions before you gave us so much information. I think you shared a lot of things that we were questioning, especially how many people you're assisting and how much money you're spending for them to be in the hotels or in you know, housing assistance. Do you have any other homes that are given to you, or are you purchasing any housing with some of the funds that you have?
None of the funding that we have allows us to purchase any properties. So at this time, no. In the past, we have had some. So when I first started at Housing Help in 2006, the USDA actually had, back then they did agreements with some nonprofits. So we actually had contracts with them that allowed us to use some properties, I think, for up to 10 years for transitional housing. So we actually had a house in Tecumseh and one in Britain at that time, but the contract ended and we had to give those houses back. And that was, goodness, I'm trying to remember when that was. That might've been around 2010 or so that those had to go back. And then we actually had a couple of churches who they weren't using their parsonage. So they actually allowed us to use those for transitional housing. We had one in Riga and one in Palmyra for a short period of time until the churches needed them back.
I guess, and you might have covered this, Elizabeth. Sorry if I missed it with all the info, but so like, how does someone find, like, let's say somebody, comes into a situation where they really need the housing help, like how do they find out about it? How do they find out about you, or how do they find out about services that are available to them?
Sure. So, a lot of the people who come to see us, I mean, a lot of people talk amongst themselves. There are some people, especially if you've never been in this situation before, that it's probably more of a struggle for them to know what's my first step. We're always working at trying to get the word out more. We had big plans for all of that last year, didn't work. So, because everything got shut down, but we have a website. So have a website, it's h2lenaway.org. We're also on Facebook. So we post things there. We try to get, like I said, we had plans to try to be out in the community more to help get more word out that way. We always try whenever we can to try to put stuff on WLEN as well. So if somebody's on the radio, that they may be able to hear things. A lot of people, I think, do hear about us kind of through word of mouth as well. It's like they know somebody, they're talking to somebody, they refer them. Agencies, if they're already connected with somebody, we have a coordinated entry system. The federal government requires every community to have that. So Lenawee does have that. We are considered that central starting point for anybody in housing crisis. So if they're talking to somebody, so even if, for instance, they're working with Michigan Works and they mention, hey, I don't know how I'm going to pay my rent, the Michigan Works will refer them to us and tell them how to get connected with us.
That's awesome. That's what I was wondering, if there was that connection and the entities were all talking to each other, or if there was some kind of a centralized location for that info. So to make sure, that was one of the questions I had. Thanks.
Yep. And
Well,
then
and-
keeping in mind that there's 211 as well. So people can call 211 and tell them what they need and they'll refer them to us too.
That's great. Does anyone else have any questions?
Is my mic working? No, yes.
It's soft.
I have a question. It's
Okay.
D'Angelo. Elizabeth, when a person is identified as homeless, what's the time length of the process? That they can to go from their homeless situation of being maybe sleeping in the parks or whatnot to getting the help to get into a hotel room or into an apartment.
As far as with the hotel, as long as we have funding and the hotel has space and they're willing to work with us, then essentially we could get them in the hotel as soon as they connect with us. As far as for the housing piece, we always tell people the main goal is worst case within 30 days. Obviously, our hope would be that we can do it even sooner. But realistically, the problem with not having units readily available, that's what makes things take longer.
That's great. Any other questions? That was one of my questions with the time frame. Yes.
Yeah, this is Chris Carter. I was wondering, by chance, is it the same process for, let's say, college students? Like if they are living in town, but they can't necessarily, according to like financial aid or tuition or anything like that, like where it's not affordable for them to remain on campus or anything like that. Is there housing help for them as well?
We can work with college students. It just kind of depends on the situation and what funds are available. The issue with college students is most of the time when it comes to rental assistance, we do try to get documentation that they're Lenawee County residents. So it can get tricky sometimes with college students. We have been able to help on occasion. It just depends on the situation and what's going on.
Do they have to be emancipated from their parents or anything in that situation as well?
The only way that so basically, as long as you're 18, we can work with you. As long as you're eligible, we could potentially help assist you do pretty much anything, as long as you're legally an adult. If you are under 18, unfortunately, we can't actually, because if you're like under 18, you're not emancipated legally, then you don't actually have a legal capacity to rent an apartment, for instance. And we just aren't set up liability wise from that standpoint. So that's about the only place that our hands are tied. But again, we can partner with DOGIS and other groups that work with the youth to try to help come up with a solution.
Anyone else?
One more time. Is my mic working?
It's a little low.
We could hear you. You were just kind of quiet. Oh, now I
good.
can't hear you at all.
How about now?
Try again.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, you're loud
Yes.
now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Gotcha.
I just wanted to ask about the continuum of care, like what organizations are involved in that, and if you have meetings that are open to the public on a regular basis or anything like that.
So the continuum of care, I'm trying to think, I think we've got at least 20 agencies, but I think at this time, all of the shelters participate. So for instance, there's Catherine Cobb, Neighbors of Hope, Share the Warmth, ourselves, there's Community Action Agency, Department of Health and Human Services. We've got the ISD, so our homeless youth coordinator for Lenawee County attends, DOGIS, Michigan Works. So there's just about probably any agency you can think of in our community probably participates in the COC. We meet on a monthly basis. We've been doing it via Zoom. It is always the second Tuesday at 3 o'clock of each month. We're working at kind of, coming up with the plan on how we're going to meet in person. I think in July, we decided we were still going to be doing Zoom, and then probably look at potentially August, September, doing in-person meetings again. Prior to the pandemic, we were meeting at the Human Services building in the River Raisin Room. So we were meeting there. And technically anybody's always welcome to attend. So they're not closed. You just don't have voting rights if you don't have a signed MOU. So if you've got a signed MOU with the COC and you've been attending at least 75% of the meetings, then you're considered an active member and would be allowed to vote. But yeah, you don't have to be part of an agency. We've even had on occasion some like property managers who used to come to the COC years ago. So anyone's always welcome.
Well, we just like to say thank you to you so much and for coming and giving such great information. I learned a lot. I'm sure all of us have some of our questions answered, and we know who the expert in Lenawee County is now on housing and the homeless. So we will be contacting you again when we can maybe put together a town hall meeting. Now that we're going to be back in person, maybe we can have some where you can come and share and the community can come and be a part of it. So at this time, we'd like to thank you again and appreciate so much for you being with us. Okay.
Yep. Thank you very much.
At this time, I'd like to open up for public comments. If there's any public comment that was not spoken at the time. Hearing no comments, are there any commissioner comments? I guess we've been satisfied, huh? Okay, well, we will have our meeting at 7 o'clock and we're just a few minutes away from that. And we would take a motion for adjournment for the pre-meeting and we will come back to our regular meeting. Do I have a motion?
I motion that we adjourn the pre-meeting.
I second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we'll see you in 2 minutes. Thank you. Hi, I got a minute between meetings to call you.
No, we were just checking on you.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I was on a Zoom meeting conference. So, and I got to go back on in a minute. So,
Okay.
how are you all
We
doing?
can hear you, Lady Bernard, and we are still recording.
Bye.
Just
All right, we're going to start our regular meeting of the Human Relations Commission for the City of Adrian. It's Tuesday, June 22nd, 2021. Our 7 p.m. meeting is now called to order. We'd like to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the
republic for which it
stands
stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We will have the roll call vote now.
We don't have Ashley or Lindsay on here, by the way.
All right, then I can do the roll call vote.
Oh, Ashley's coming right now.
Okay. You're with us, Ashley?
There we go. Sorry, I stepped away for a second. Everyone decided they needed to talk to me.
All right, we're at the roll call vote for attendance.
All right. Mayor Sword Heath.
Here.
Commissioner Bernard.
Present.
Commissioner Ramos.
Present.
Commissioner Patton. Absent. Commissioner Cavazos Frank is present. Commissioner Boone.
Present.
Commissioner Barron.
Present.
Commissioner Carter.
Present.
Commissioner Harvat.
Present.
We're just so glad to have everybody back with us. And we would like a motion to approve the minutes for the pre-meeting of May 27, 2021. I need a motion.
I move to, oh, go ahead, Chris.
Oh, I was gonna say, Commissioner Carden, a motion to approve the minutes from May 25th.
Commissioner Ramos, I second the motion.
You ready for the question? And roll call, please.
The pre-meeting minutes of the May 27th, 2021. Mayor,
Yes,
Commissioner Bernard,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramos,
Yes.
Commissioner Frank, yes. Commissioner Boone,
Your voice is gone.
Commissioner Barron,
Yes.
Commissioner Carter,
Yes.
Commissioner Harbat.
Yes.
I didn't hear my name called.
Commissioner Boone.
Yes.
All right, we have one commissioner absent, and that is Lindsay Patton. Let's keep her in our thoughts. All right, the minutes for our regular meeting. I'd like a motion for the approval of those minutes for May 27th, 2021.
I move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting for May 27th, 2021.
Commissioner Boone, I second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please. Can't hear you. Okay, I'll do the roll call. Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Bernard, yes. Commissioner Ramos,
Yes.
Commissioner Frank,
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner D'Angelo Boone,
Yes.
Commissioner Barron,
Yes.
Commissioner Carter,
Yes.
Commissioner Harbat.
Yes.
Motion pass. All right, is there any additional additions to our regular agenda today? All right, hearing none, we'll move on. I'd like an approval of the regular agenda. I need a motion and vote.
Commissioner Ramos, I motion to approve the regular agenda.
Commissioner Harbat, I second.
All right. Roll call. Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Andrea Bernard, yes. Commissioner Ramos,
Yes.
Commissioner Frank,
Yes.
Commissioner Boone,
Yes.
Commissioner Barron,
Yes.
Commissioner Carter,
Yes.
Commissioner Harbat.
Yes.
Motion carried. All right, so no changes to the agenda, approval of the agenda. So we go into our old business, the HRC updates. The first thing that we need to talk about is the HRC town hall meeting that we had scheduled for June 24th, which is this Thursday, has been postponed, and we will reconvene in July the 2nd in combination with the police department. And we can have discussion on that at this time. Did everyone hear the proposal that the police chief gave to us for us to, instead of having the town hall meeting on Zoom, that we would come together in person on July the 2nd. And what he's recommending is that the police do food and give outs and sit down and have conversation one-on-one with individuals, us walking around and talking to each other and communicating and sharing and answering. The police is willing to answer any questions that we may or the community may have. We're going to publicize it on our web page for the city, and we're asking all of you if you would participate. We need to vote to say that we're going to be in conjunction with the police department for this adventure. And so if there's no questions or comments, then we can vote to approve the July 2nd date. The time we're thinking about is from 4 to 7. And we're going to assist the police department, the chief, in giving out hot dogs and whatever else he has, refreshments that we're going to be giving out, and also passing out information about the Human Relations Commission and any other things that the chief would like us to assist with. So we're going to have discussion right quick, and then we'll have, I need a motion for us to approve July 2nd as our time to do community outreach.
Is my mic working now? Yes. All right. There's also a car alarm going off. I don't know if you can hear that or not. Downtown living. I wanted to just kind of, I only have a little bit of a concern about it being in person, just because people are less likely to, well, I would say me specifically, but people are less likely to ask like a real deep question to a police officer directly, where online they might have more of a comfort. So I think it would be important if like we introduce ourselves as many commissioners that can be there as that in-between bridge, because that's what we are, right? So if they're not comfortable asking the police officer themselves, like we should definitely introduce ourselves, like that's why we're here. So if you want to ask us the question and then we can go get the answer for you, kind of a thing, like a buffer, because people see a uniform and they're intimidated, rightfully so in some cases. Like, so I just think that we should, if we're going to do this, it should definitely be a partnership and not just us lifting up the police department, like, here, be friends now. Like, we should have that bridge there to the community, just because I think they'll get different response if it's just us pushing people to talk to the police rather than them talking to us, and or we could go and introduce them if they seem hesitant and kind of hanging out on the outskirts, that kind of thing. Those were just my concerns.
Anyone else have any concerns before I say something?
I want to say I do agree with Commissioner Cavazos Frank. I do plan to be there to do what I can to help for at least a while. And I would also like to see us move this to other parts of the city as well, because of course, First Friday only hits so many people, grant a lot of people, but you get certain demographics in certain parts of the city. So hopefully we're able to then move this to other places as well.
Any other comments? Okay. Before we take a motion and decide that this is something that we want to partner with, I think as the chief spoke earlier, he's really interested in us helping him to reach out to the community. I only think that we should allow people to ask a question and they answer the questions. I don't think we should go back and report what they said to. We ask the question to the police officer and the police officer tells us, and then we go tell somebody else. No, I think what we have to do is be that divide, take them to there ask the question for them, let them hear the answer coming from the officer and from the chief. Okay? Because one of the things that happens when you have conversations that you pass on, sometimes you lose the exact purpose for what you're trying to do. What we're trying to do is give them a better relationship with the officers and the chief, right? So in my mind, I'm thinking we can be there and help to bridge that divide, you know. And I agree with Commissioner Frank that we need to make sure that we're available to help those people that don't know how to ask the question, try to get the answers, and let the officers tell them what they think. Okay, so they're in the hearing of the conversation. All right. Any comments on that?
I also agree with what Commissioner Frank was talking about, but also with what you just talked about. I just think that if we were to go up to the police officer personally and them give us an answer and we go back and we call that person and maybe it's not an answer they were wanting, somehow I just also fear that it'll come back on us and it'll be like, oh, well, Commissioner Barron said this, and I just don't want that to happen. But I also agree with what Ashley, you were saying, that some people are afraid to go up and talk to police officers and stuff like that. So I agree with what you said too.
And you know, it may be a good idea to ask the chief if he can have maybe some paper and pen that people can write down their question and they get questions, have a box there and people can just stick questions in there for later. If they don't want to ask it now, maybe he could, you know, do it in another forum for later, but he would hear from the community. And I think it's so many ways that we could help. But I really think it's important that the officers and the chief give that information directly to the people. Mayor?
I was gonna say too, I don't know if, I know that he wanted to be more casual conversation, so I don't really know what Chief Emmerich will say about this, but I just thought of this as we're discussing this. You know, they might get asked the same question over and over again. It would be really nice if maybe they had a speaker that had like a microphone attached and, you know, Chief Emmerich could say, I was just asked this question, you know, this is, you know, our response. And so that everybody can hear it too. So there's that. So it is more like that town hall setting, but yet, you know, there's that also that one-on-one conversation. I don't know. I don't know. I'm kind of milling that around right now as I'm talking out loud as I'm thinking, but I just also wonder if they're going to get asked the same question over and over again. But I also understand that, you know, they're wanting it to be that casual conversation and letting people feel more comfortable and not as formal. So I don't know, just an idea.
I think he was really interested in doing one-on-one. He's not interested in having a platform where he's speaking out to everyone because people hear what they want to hear. And I think he wants to have the interaction so that he can build relationships. And so in building relationships, that one-on-one is going to make a difference. And people do respond differently when you're talking face to face to them, you know. And so I do understand why he, and I hear everything that we're saying. We just are trying to do it as best we can so that we can also be that kind of help as well. And we may know the answer, you know, we may have something in writing that we can give him out. He said he's going to have some handouts. So maybe he will be able to share information, directing people to talk to him again. He's pretty open to having a coffee day or information time where he can do one-on-one. So I think this platform is a new format that we're going to try, and we'll see how it works out. I'm in agreement with Commissioner Ramos. We still have to do more after this is over. It won't be the only thing that we do with bridging that divide. And Commissioner Frank, I hear exactly what you're saying, because I do have people that don't ask questions because they don't want to talk directly to the police officer or to the chief. But we can share information, but I would like them to give the answers. Okay. So let's see how it goes this time and work with him the way he's directing us. At this time, we're just helping him to get out to the community, and we're there, and we're going to work directly with him. Mayor.
Yeah, and I do really like that one-on-one interaction. And I also agree that I think it's good if they're not comfortable asking the questions. That's why we are there. But I do also like them giving that answer directly to that person, not us, not having us be the go-between. But I just really think the way to really truly, make that better relationship between community and the police force is exactly what Chief Emmerich is suggesting by doing this and having a lot of one-on-one interactions and that close contact. And things are just perceived differently in person than they are in a more formal setting. That there's just better communication. There's more dialogue that can occur. So I do really like this format, let's at least try it and see where we can go. But I really think that we are very instrumental in this and being that bridge, just like Commissioner Frank and Commissioner Ramos just said, that with asking the questions and even you said, Commissioner Bernard, some people they are very uncomfortable, approaching, or some people are just shy in general anyways and just don't want to ask questions. It can be a myriad of reasons of why they don't want to do that. But I think that's why we are very important in this situation too, to be there to help with that.
And especially when we're talking about the young people, trying to get them to interact with the police in a different way. And as they see us doing this and seeing us mingling around, we may be the only one that they ask a question to, so they may not want to go up and talk to them. So just being there. So how many of us are willing to do this? We can vote, and I will, if there's no other discussion, we can just vote on this and decide that we're going to participate. And then we'll find out who actually is going to be able to be present. Okay. Any other discussion before we have a motion?
I have one more thing that I didn't want to ask Chief until I talked to everyone else. I know he asked when he was speaking with Scott about Juneteenth, he had asked what they should wear, like if they should be in uniform or if they should be in their polos, because the uniform can be imposing. When I was at Juneteenth, the vibe from like the sheriff's table, they were all in uniform, all geared up, compared to the APD where Chief was just in like some cargo pants and their polo was a little more approachable. And I know Chief is open to those kind of suggestions. So I can send him an email just about what we think maybe their dress code should be to make them more approachable.
Mayor?
I personally like the polo, and I agree. I think sometimes the uniform, something that identifies who they are, but just makes them more approachable when they're not in uniform. I mean, that's my first initial thought. I feel more comfortable personally myself. So I'm thinking others would too, but maybe not. But that's my thought.
About that, he had mentioned maybe some coming in partway through their shift, like as a quick break. So as far as like the chief himself, and let's say he has 2 officers that are going to be with him the whole time, then yeah, maybe have them dress casually with just a badge that we know that they are indeed who they say they are. And then, whoever comes in, we know because they're still fully dressed up.
Yeah.
I think we need to see both, Sister Harvette.
I think so too. It'd be good to see both because you're trying to make a point of who the officers are, but also it is an informal event too. So I think, if we could have both, that would be good.
Mm-hmm. Well, we are going to have both because officers, like Commissioner Ramos says, some are going to come through on the job. So they will be in uniform.
Yeah, coming
and
off.
It can be intimidating, but it can also be a time of sharing and people calming down and seeing somebody in uniform with their guns and they're not drawn and they're not approaching them in a negative way. They see them as people. So it's a, you know, positive or an either one, but I do know that we'll probably get both. It won't hurt to share who will be casual if
Mhm.
if he decides that's how they're going to come out, then we're going to back them no matter how they do it. Okay.
Right.
But recommending, we just say, you know, we'll be casual. We'll be more casual than, you know, so we're mingling with them. So I think it's a good thought to think about that though, how it could be intimidating for some. And some of us need to have an officer not be approaching us in a negative way in uniform. So this is going to be good. It's going to be good, especially our children. You know, I don't want my children or grandchildren to be afraid of the officers, especially when, you know, they're here to assist us. And we have to show them how to do that. I know I've always had the fire department and the police department to come to our church and talk to our children, because they need to be able to have a good relationship, especially with what's going on in our nation. They need to have that interaction. And I'm so glad we're able to do it in person.
I think too, just to make sure that you have enough covered when it comes to making sure that, you know, we are there to be that bridge, you know, maybe send out via email to us like a sign up, like, you know, say we want at least this many people, and you know, we're going to we need this many people, and you know, maybe do shifts, and somebody might do 3 or 4 shifts. They might, you know, might not just want to do one, but that way, just to make sure that we're covered and there are people there. Just, it's just a thought. Like, I can do quite a bit of it, but I also need to be other places. I'll be there the entire time. But, you know, and I know some other people said they can only be there a little bit, and, you know, maybe not everybody can be there, but just to make sure that that is occurring, that, you know, we do have a presence there at all times, and it's not just getting thrown onto one person.
Right. Well, we're going to be working hard to do exactly what you said, but I do need to know who actually is going to be available that day. And we're talking 3 hours. So, and some may be a little bit longer. So let's, I need a motion first for us to agree that this is something that we're going to do, and then we'll move forward.
So I make a motion to change the Zoom forum on the 24th to the in-person cookout conversation, I think is what he called it, on during First Fridays from 4 to 7 on July 2nd.
Second. Mhm.
I
have a
second the motion.
Second the motion, Commissioner Ramos. All right, ready for the question? Roll call. Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Bernard, yes. Commissioner Ramos,
Yes.
Commissioner Frank,
Yes.
Commissioner Boone,
Yes.
Commissioner Barron, Commissioner Carter,
Yes.
Commissioner Heath, Harvitt,
Yes.
right? So we have a vote to be a part of the July the 2nd meeting with the police department, and we're going to co-sponsor. We're co-sponsors for this event. Okay, so now I need to know who actually is going to be a part of it. And what I will do is do what the mayor said. I will put a format out and I will email each of you. And then you can tell me what time is good and how long you can participate. Okay. And that way we'll have it all signed up. And then what I will do is send it to the mayor, and she can forward it to the chief, or I can send it, CC him as well. Okay. So until then, Commissioner Harvitt, you will not be able to get out until that second.
Well, I'll see. Yeah, I'm gonna try and ask if I can go, like, maybe from 4
Gotta
to
have
5 or something, 4 to 5:30.
Okay. And there were some of the sisters at the Juneteenth
Yeah, I know. See, I couldn't
celebration.
go to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they live
But
in the
no,
community.
a lot
Yes,
of the sisters went, they loved it.
yes. Well, it was really a nice event. All right, so now we are going to change our 24th, June 24th town hall meeting to July the 2nd at 4 to 7. So we need to have all of us participating, and you can dress casual. It's a casual event. But also, Mayor says she's going to have name tags for us, so they will know that we're Human Relations Commissioners, and that is a great thing. So the flyers, the brochures that we have, we will be passing those out. We're going to try to get some items that we can pass out to the children and young people, and I'm hoping that we can get some of them to volunteer. Maybe you have some young people in your home, or some young people that would like to help to pass out hot dogs and chips and whatever else they give us to do. So let me know, or let the chief know. Well, let me know so I know how much we're going to be participating. Okay. All right. All right. Our next item is to open it up for discussion on public comment. Well, hearing no comments from the community and public, commissioner comments.
Yes, quick question. So are we picking times today, or are we picking times at another time?
No, I'm gonna put a list together
Okay,
for sign up, and you can sign up. If you can be there the whole time, that's fine. But I'm gonna have a sign up, just put your name on the list, okay? I'm gonna
Okay.
email you, and that I should have it done by tomorrow, and you can fill it out. Once I get everything, then I will actually send it to the chief so he knows who's gonna be assisting him. If someone would like to work with the food and handing out the food, we want to do that, but we can switch on and off and do that. Like the mayor said, we can, fill in different places, because some of you will have other obligations around the city during that time. So we definitely want to be able to get as much support as we can. Any other comments from the commissioners? If not,
I guess maybe this would fit better in announcement, actually. Never mind, I'll wait till announcement.
it's coming up right now. Announcements.
All right. Well, I suppose I have something to announce. Next second Fridays will be in person, if I remember correctly. D'Angelo can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what we agreed upon. And we'll of course be down at Parish Park again, and hopefully some of you can make it.
So you said second Friday. So first Fridays is the city. Second
Yep.
Fridays is Parish Park.
Yep.
That's
Parish
July
Park
9th.
with A3.
Yep.
So that would be July the 9th would be the first one.
Yes. Well, the second Friday, but yes.
The second Friday in person. There you go.
Yes.
In person. And the time.
D'Angelo, you might have to correct me if I'm wrong.
I think it's 7, isn't it, D'Angelo? But I might be wrong.
D'Angelo, you're muted.
Can't hear you.
Sorry. It's gonna be 6 o'clock. The performers will go on at 7, but we're gonna kind of start the festivities up at 6.
It's
Thank
6
you.
to what? Is
6
it
to
cutoff time?
about 2 by 11. Usually we start the movie at about 9 o'clock, and it's when the movie's over.
I think it's technically over when everyone finally leaves, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, either way, it's a time for support. Okay. And that is second Fridays. And what's the name of the group?
The All About Adrian Resident Coalition, or A3 to make it easy.
A3. I'm writing it down. Okay. All right. Any other announcements? Just don't forget, we have to promote the July the 2nd interaction with First Friday, Police Chief, and the Human Relations Commission. Okay. He gave it a name. So we're going to promote that. Okay. It's still bridging the divide. Okay. So in quotes, bridging the divide. All right. Okay. I'm open for adjournment.
I motion to adjourn.
I second Commissioner Harbit.
All right. We've been second. All in favor?
Aye.
And it's so good to see everybody. Take care.
I know.
Take
Thank
care.
you. Yes.
Yeah.
See you on.